Welcome to Hurts So Good. I'm your host, Orsi Sabo. And on this podcast, we're going to be exploring with ultra athletes, endurance athletes, what it takes, not just physically, but more importantly, mentally, to do these long adventure races. What ultra athletes put themselves through is physically demanding and painful, but there has to be something on the other side that makes it all worth it. So let's explore what makes it hurt so good. Welcome. Today we have Dave Proctor with us. He is the fastest man to run across Canada. That is over 7,200 kilometers in 67 days, 10 hours and some change. He has written this wonderful book, Untethered, and made a documentary called Chasing the Yellow Line. And he also holds several Canadian records in most kilometers in 24 hours, 72 hours, and most kilometers on a treadmill in 24 hours. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Marcy. This is super fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. Dave and I did a race together back in 2023, the Grassroots Backyard Ultra. Dave won. Shocking. But it was so cool running with you through the night and getting to pick your brain. That was just the year after you ran across Canada, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a fun night, wasn't it? And we
Yeah.
had our ups and downs, didn't we?
I was actually thinking about it in the car today. You made it look so easy. And I was like, is that the power of the cowboy hat? Because I was, everybody was struggling. In
Yeah.
the middle of the night, there was just 3 runners left, but you were so cool and collected. I was
Oh, well,
like,
thank you. Thank you. I love backyard races, right? Yeah. For anybody who's not listening, backyard race is a last person standing event where it's a 6.7 kilometer loop course. It's kind of like a beep test, when you were a kid and you did the beep test in phys ed, but it's like goes on for, well, really it could be forever until there's one person left standing on the course. And so it's so in your head. And that's what's super rad about it, right?
kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy until it's not, right?
Well, I remember signing up for the race thinking I'm going to go win this backyard ultra. And then right before the race, your name popped up on ultra sign up. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to go win this race.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about the backyard is I've run that race, and then I've been down at Big's Backyard down in Tennessee, and that's where you have to win races like that to then go and win your national championships to then get a ticket to go down there. And so when you get there, everybody's like really good. Like you're standing beside Courtney Dauwalter, right? And you're like, oh no, like this is we're going to be here for a while. And the comparison game, like you think about Instagram and all that crap, like the comparison game crushes people. And so it's kind of a bit of a game out there too. Like you can't let other people get in your head because it's in my experience, everybody's trying to show that they're not uncomfortable, but they're very, very uncomfortable. Like everyone, standing beside guys like Harvey Lewis and others in races, he goes on for over 100 hours at these things. But I guarantee you at 12 hours or 15 hours in, he's done. Like he's cooked. He looks just as awful as everybody else out there. But it's interesting. It's a space of getting into an ugly space and being cool with that and accepting your current discomfort and being okay with that. The moment you're not okay with that, well, you're not okay with it. You're gonna likely drop out pretty quick.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I read this quote yesterday, which sort of made sense with the name of the podcast. It was like, pain is the medicine, comfort is a disease. And from the 1500s, it's such an old quote. It's like a secret philosopher. So I imagine life wasn't so comfortable back in 1500s.
Yeah.
But yeah, thinking about pain, do you think it's the medicine? Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, I think that we're in the middle of like we're seeing such an interesting decline in mental health. And yet you're seeing a significant amount of people that are reaching out to things like ultra marathoning and like backyard racing because you like it's as far as you want it to go. But ultimately, like I was walking to work today and I live just south of Calgary and we got like a crazy snowstorm and And, the amount of comments I had from people driving by and neighbors shoveling his walks and like we're so attached to comfort and we can't accept like any level of discomfort, but discomfort's here. It's everywhere. Next week there could be a cancer diagnosis in my family. There could be there could be a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that is, the easy choices make for a hard life. When you make easy choices day to day, they make for a very hard life. But hard choices for a short period of time make for a very easy life. And it's kind of I think it's the cheat code to this
Mm.
life. And so leaning in and in fact signing up and paying money for a race that's going to put you square against you, looking at your ego square on. It's I think it's the remedy for general discourse, agitation, mental disharmony. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's an opportunity that we all have, but we're afraid of it because I think that there's some real assholes on Instagram that are telling you that I'm stronger, I'm better than you, and you can't do this, and look how great and beautiful and powerful I am. But that's bullshit. They're just as scared as the rest of us, and that's why they're screaming louder and wearing the mask that they're wearing.
Mm.
So it's you have to get to a place and go like, "Am I cool?" And the answer typically is yeah. Yeah, I would rather be sitting on a sofa. I'd rather be, eating a bowl of ice cream. Um, but I'm cool. I'm cool. And I think that was one of my experiences with Canada, with running
Mm.
across the country is from from day 1, especially on day 5, right? Like on day 5, I can still remember 5 days ago sitting on my sofa, eating a bowl of ice cream and being in comfort. And I know that for the next 60 some odd days, I'm not gonna feel that. And was I cool with it? Not really. Not really, but you kinda had to outrun your memory of comfort. And then beautiful things happen, and you
Right.
really do surprise yourself, and then ultimately you look upon the world and go, "Well, shit, if I did that, what else could I do?"
I can't even imagine, like, being on one end of on one side of Canada and thinking I have to get myself
Mm,
across just on my feet. Like,
mm,
I can because I try to imagine it, but, like,
yeah,
what does that like, how daunted are you? Like, is it excitement? Is it fear? Because this was your 2nd attempt, like,
yeah,
so you
yeah.
kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, it's all the things, all wrapped up in one, and it all really depends on where you draw your attention to. Like, do you think you could run across Canada? Or see, do you think you could do it?
I mean, this is an ongoing, like, thing that
Yeah,
I think the women's record is very gettable. Like,
yeah,
your record is 67 days, like, it's not touchable, but the women's record is, like, 143 days or something. She was doing, like,
yeah,
55K a day.
yeah.
I think that's doable. I think you could do 80K a day.
Mhm,
You wrap it up in 100 days, like,
mhm,
I think it's possible.
mhm,
There's all
mhm,
the other things like how much money do I need? I don't know. What's
mhm.
the ballpark? 50,000? Is that a good
Mm.
guess-ish? I don't know how much it
Oh,
costs.
there, yeah, it cost me between 40 to $50,000 to do it. Yeah,
That's kind of
comfortably,
what I
comfortably.
assumed. You'd
Mhm,
need 3 or 4 months, like, you need
mhm.
crew, like, it's like,
There's a
can I
lot to it, right?
physically do it? That's one
Yeah.
question, and then can I also make all the other parts work, right? Like, it's a
Well,
daunting, huge undertaking.
and there's a lot of learning that goes into it, and, there's a lot of people that are attempting it and that are getting humbled by it, because I think that the immediacy of our culture now, especially with social media culture and wanting to be Insta famous, um, I think it leads people to think that it should be easier than it's not, just because they can say words and yell platitudes.
Well, I don't think it would be easy. I think it'd be, like,
No, 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 no. But
hard.
but ultimately, there's a lot of learning that goes on. And I'm 45 years old. I don't have my body that I had when I was 35, but I've got the mental strength now of an older man, and that's pretty rad. So like there's a lot of learnings that go into like. I remember there was one guy who ran across Canada a few years ago, and yeah, he was very
You're thinking Ryan Kipping.
yeah,
I
yeah.
ran with him. He's not a humble he's not a humble dude.
No, hubris is the name, right?
Huh?
Hubris,
Yes.
extreme arrogance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, he asked a question, but he didn't want an answer. He wanted to be able to speak. And you're like, oh, okay, that tells me a lot. And you know what? He still ran 75 kilometers a day for 100 days in a row. So, I mean, the guy did well. Like, it was amazing that he held it together because his capabilities, like, he outran that, which was remarkable. I'm so proud of him. Um,
Yeah, he's
but
a super young dude. I think that
uh
helps, but it was shocking to me that he had only been running for like 2 or 3 years at the time. Like 2 or 3
yeah,
years into running, I don't think I would have or would feel ready. Like, how do you
yeah.
ready? That's
I
so
forget there was a guy in America as well too. And he did the very same thing. He said he was going to beat Pete Kostelnick's record, and just hubris again.
Mhm.
But he was busy telling, not listening. And I know Pete, like Pete and I are great friends, and he was reaching out to him, and he didn't listen. And you're like, whoa, there's a lot to this. Like and this is one of the reasons why I think my record will stand 30, 40, 50 years is
I think
because
so.
the younger brand of people trying these things, they're not willing to wait the 10 or 15 years that it takes to build a base, and to ultimately learn the things that truly matter versus the David Goggins crap,
Yeah.
you know? Um, the mindfulness stuff. Like I asked you earlier before, I said, like, could you run across the country? Well, that doesn't really matter. Can you run to a power pole?
Yeah.
And there's 89,500 power poles between St. John's and Victoria, and I counted every one of them. And because the best way to get there is to be here, right? In mindfulness, there's a great book. John Kabat-Zinn wrote Full Catastrophe Living, and I think that's a book every runner needs to read. It doesn't talk about running at all. It talks about doing hard things in life.
Yeah.
But he's the godfather of mindfulness, and one of his concepts that I worked heavily with my sports psychologist with was the art of non-striving. And Ryan could stand to benefit by listening to something like this versus telling the world what he already knows.
Yeah. I think
And
it's being
it's
20
interesting.
something.
Yeah. And because the art of non-striving is really simple. The best way to get there is to be here. Like you are here in this step, this breath, this moment, and you're exceptional. And you're proud of the person that you are with this step. You don't have to run to the next, provincial border. You don't have to get to the next city center. You don't even really need to get to that next power pole because you haven't promised the future anything. But you're taking this step for yourself simply because your effort is worth it in this moment.
I totally feel that. And I wonder, like, if in that moment I could do that because I would be thinking, but so and so is here crewing me and da 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 da. Like, I have to get to the next thing because I
Mhm,
told X, Y, and Z people and they've like scheduled their lives around
mhm,
me.
mhm.
Like, I have to, not
Well,
because I
there
want to, but because I'm like now feel obligated to
totally.
accomplish this thing that I said I was gonna do. Was that in your head, or
Yeah.
were you able to just, like, push that aside?
Well, I think there's two things, right? Number one, trust. Trust and love. Like the people there are there for you, and they're gonna do. There's an old African. We were just talking about Kenya, right? There's an old African saying, "Ubuntu." Have you heard of Ubuntu?
No.
It's a phrase that means "I am because we are."
Mm,
So it's a beautiful thing because it ultimately creates togetherness, and I'm here for you and you're here for me and you're going to be great. It's almost like in sport, hoping that your defender is exceptional today because it's going to up your game. It's not you versus anybody, it's you with everyone.
yeah.
And it's a beautiful place because when you know that everybody is there because they love you, whether you succeed or don't succeed, and they're going to be where they are, you don't have any promises and they don't have any promises either because we're all just showing up for one another with an open heart. Yeah. And then I think secondly, like I think the very best thing that a runner can do, or anybody in the world, right?
Yeah.
But really, a runner is like you think about the biggest struggles that we all have in our lives. And this is what's beautiful about running is because it's not really about running. It's what's going on up in your own head. And, I would rather miss every run of the week than miss my meditation session in the morning because when you're meditating, when you're meditating on a regular basis, you're really or see the only thing that we have control of in this world. I truly believe that the only thing we have control of in this world is where we draw our attention.
Yeah.
Your attention is everything. And so train your brain. You can go to the gym for your brain every day by focusing upon your breath. And whenever you have a thought that comes through your mind when you're meditating, go, oh, like this morning I was meditating. I was sitting on my sofa and it was in the dark and a vehicle drove by and it was a loud vehicle. And I thought, huh, that's a loud vehicle. Then I thought, oh, hold on. That was a thought I didn't choose to think. I'm not thinking, I'm breathing and I'm focusing upon the feelings of breathing. I'm going to take my attention back to my breath. And the more often you do that, better you get at focusing your attention where it matters versus jumping on the crazy train of your thoughts that will never ever stop because that's what the mind does and goes elsewhere. So you think about backyard racing, right? You think about backyard racing, what is it? Catastrophe happens about a half an hour after a thought comes in that you jumped on. That's it. Like
Yeah.
you can run with blisters, you can run with a broken foot, you can run with crap going on.
Sure.
You can run through the rain, you can run through the cold. You're fine until you've convinced yourself otherwise. And that's a thought. And so it's a forest fire of thoughts that are happening in your brain. And that's ultimately how you accomplish like something like Canada, right? Is because it's dear Lord, there were hundreds of thousands of thoughts that you go, huh, that's a thought. And I'm not going to give this little ember of fire the oxygen that it wants in order to become a forest fire. You don't give that space.
That sounds so calm, Dave, but like
Mm.
in your book, you do like really talk about like the mental struggle of it all, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember when we were running that night, the one thing that really like stood out to me, and then you wrote about it in the book too, was like just before you finished and you knew you were going to hit the record, you were so addicted to the amount of
Mm,
dopamine you were getting. Like, I remember you being
mhm,
like, it's not dopamine like chocolate or sex. Like, this is like dopamine like crack. Like, I don't know.
mhm,
But like, I remember you saying
mhm.
that. And I remember being like, before I like accomplished my goal, I wanted to like turn around and run back the other way and make it like 14,000 kilometers because I
Yeah.
was like so like in my head and so addicted to this feeling. And like, that sounds like a little unhinged, right? Like, I
Oh, it's
love the idea of
extremely
running
unhinged.
both ways. Like, that's
Yeah.
super exciting. Somebody should do that. I'll, I'll watch. But for you to be in such a mental space that you're like, I don't want to stop this journey. I don't want to stop this pain. I
Mhm.
want to keep going. So clearly, like, you're not in this like Zen space the entire time if that's where your brain's at, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that there's a constant battle between being in a Zen place and then your ego. Okay,
Mm,
back to a Zen place and then fear. Like was I fearful in that moment? Sometimes when you end up experiencing a feeling that you've never felt before and you never want it to end, you know that the lows are going to come.
mm,
And so in that moment, I got so attached to that feeling that I didn't want this feeling to ever end. And I was
mm,
fearful that it would. But I realized in that moment, I was like, oh, I'm in control of this. Like I didn't tell anybody when I got to the Terry Fox Monument in Victoria that I would stop. Like everybody just assumed I would. That I could circle back and run as long as I wanted to. Um, but then but then you start to self-identify as well too with as a guy who's addicted to fentanyl. And you're like, "Oh, we've heard these stories before." And that ain't good, right? So sometimes, you experience that high, you experience that love, a blissful feeling for just what it is. And in that moment, I was like, no, no, as high as this is, the lows are coming likely. And they did. Um, and it's now time to work with that, to deal with that. And so, yeah, it's never, I love interviews with, even take the Dalai Lama, because man, that guy deals with some, because he knows. He deals with turmoil because he knows. Sometimes not knowing, you're like, well, I'm just going to argue with strangers about politics. Sometimes when you know your own mental distress and the conflicts that are happening within, that's some pretty deep shit.
How can it feel like good? Is it like a mental thing? Is it pride? Like, how does running 100 plus K a day feel good? Because I imagine physically it does not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Physically, it doesn't, but it does. Number one, like being exhausted feels like you're alive.
Mm,
Like when you're bored, when you're like completely distracted in this world, you feel alone, distant, and you're not present, right? Sometimes when you feel like that's what I think that's what the runner's high is. It's a reminder that you're alive in this world. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think that as well too, sometimes you don't have to go too far. Like this is where the podcast kind of gets turned around sideways a little bit, because ask anybody about kink, right? And pain is very, very pleasurable to some people. Now I'm not into that stuff, but I get it. I totally, totally understand it. But, you know, I think I wrote about it in the book that every night it almost seemed as if somebody, like a doctor, came into my room while I was sleeping. They injected all these feel
mm,
good chemicals, all these feel good molecules into my body that made me feel greater and better, to the degree that it was never, believe it or not, it was never hard to get out of bed in the morning because you felt
mm.
so good and alive, even though you couldn't walk. You couldn't put, pressure upon your feet without like excruciating pain. Um, but the offset to that was feeling alive and good, almost to the degree that you're high all the time. And that and at this point as well, to every province you go into, that you're going to get higher. And so it's a really unique place and feeling where it's really hard to describe to people who haven't done it,
Yeah.
because, and this is where, people who have done transcons, I can end up really kind of, you could just look into their eyes and go like, I know you get it. I know you get it. Because I've
Yeah.
never gotten it from running 100 miles. I've never gotten it from running, ultra marathons or 24-hour events or 6-day events. I've never felt that before, but I did feel that upon you know, the 10 weeks of running across the country. So yeah, to answer your question, I think
I
there
understand the
is,
aliveness. Like when you said
yeah.
alive, I was like, oh, I get it. Like I did a really hard track session yesterday, and I hate that sort of like I hate that kind of pain.
Mhm,
But again, in the moment, it felt so good, even though I had to
mhm,
stop and breathe because it was like, I'm really alive, right? And
mhm.
that is something that, like in the day to day, like we miss because we are so in our heads and so much of our life is routine and there isn't a lot of novelty and like that feeling of aliveness that running gives you. Like, yeah, I get that.
Well, and I think that too, like back to, a part of our conversation earlier about the comfort crisis that we're in. Um, Man, don't I ever feel dead when I'm comfortable? Like, yeah, hey, I want comfort,
Yeah.
but I don't want comfort. I want it, but I don't want it. And it sucks me in. And then the more comfort I have, the more comfort I want. And then I feel like I'm just existing in this planet. And I feel like I've got this poster in my basement, right? It's got 4,000 dots on it. And I go down every week and I circle in another dot. And it represents my life. Like on average, we live about 4,000
Mm.
weeks. Most of my dots are marked in. Like I'm dying here. You're
We're like
dying.
the same age, so I don't like.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But every week is a week that's a week that's spent. right?
Yeah.
And so, it's a beautiful thing. The Buddhists say, those who live a greater life, a greater experience, tend to be reminded every day that they're going to die over 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Because those who notice that they're dying tend to live.
Mm.
And so, like, yeah, it was uncomfortable as hell running across Canada. Like it was hard. But those moments, even during and especially now, that was the greatest summer of my life. And your absolute lows will be your highs, guaranteed in life.
I'm a person in recovery, and I just am relating so much to so much of what you're saying. And when you talked about that run and that, euphoria, that feeling that you were having and not wanting to end and fearing the come down from that, really related. I remember that feeling. And I'm wondering, what is the come down from a run like that? Like, what is that feeling after? What is the recovery after that mentally, not, let alone physically, but like mentally, what's going on? Is there a crash? Is it similar to substance where you get that insane feeling and then all of a sudden it's gone? Like,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
depression and
I think
everything
it's a
after?
lot the same,
Mm.
right? I think that's this dopamine cycle that we have in our dopamine's a neurotransmitter that's in our bodies, and we all have a baseline level of dopamine. Some people have a higher baseline level of dopamine based upon things like activity, like working out and whatnot. But we all have a baseline level of dopamine. I've got quite a high baseline level of dopamine, meaning I'm a person that has a hard time sitting on the sofa. There are people who have a hard time getting off the sofa, and they typically have a lower baseline level of dopamine. But every time you eat like a square of chocolate, you get, they say, a 50% increase above your baseline level of dopamine. So it feels good, right? You're like, oh yeah. Yeah, assuming you like chocolate, right? But what happens immediately after is you have a 50% decrease below your baseline level of dopamine. And they call that pain. So you know what that makes you do? You go have another square of chocolate. And that's the addictive cycle, right? And so that's us. It used to be linked to survival. Like we would go find a bush of berries in the woods because, we had to eat. And then you eat all the berries and you feel really good. And then you feel really bad. And what that does, it makes you get off your ass and go find more berries. That's survival. Like it's a good thing, right? But, when you end up getting that bump, 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 like we, there's a good reason why we should want sex, right? Because it helps us, when there's 8 billion of us now, we maybe want it a bit too much, but, but I think that there's these bumps in life, and some would say things like fentanyl, crystal meth, um, are catastrophic simply because they're number one, you didn't have to work for it. Number two, you should never feel that good in your life ever. Because if you feel that good, which is like 1,000 times above your baseline level of dopamine, you're going to then feel 1,000 times below your baseline level of dopamine. You're going to do one of two things. You're going to either kill yourself or you're going to go find more crystal meth. And that's messed up. And so that's where I was right after the run because it felt like I was on crystal meth every day out there at the end. As much as I was broken, like I was broken and skinny and like broken. The offset to that was the feeling I felt inside, and I felt so high. And about 2 months after the run across Canada, I started feeling extraordinarily low. Now you got to remember too, I broke a lot of bones in my body. I was in air cast. I wasn't running, like, and also you didn't have your outlets anymore. But what happened was I started feeling extraordinarily low, like about 2 months after, to the point that I would just cry all day and all night. And you're like, why am I feeling so empty here? But there I was. It worsened, and it worsened to the degree that I got home one day and I looked at a tire swing in my front yard and I thought, I know where the ladder is. And I felt this real pull to go climb the ladder. And I was like, oh shit. So I ended up at the hospital, just drove myself because I was like, I'm very unsafe here. And that was the beginning of a very long year of feeling extraordinarily empty about my life simply because, you know, it was like the Olympics for me. For the last 20 years, all I could think about was Canada. And that was the epitome. And here I was thinking that it was going to solve some sort of problem as well, too. Like the day after I finished running, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was still an insecure asshole. Like that didn't solve anything, you know? And so there I was, no more fixed, more broken, with a record and an achievement that, well, I went for a jog. Kind of felt like Forrest Gump there at the end. Like I just felt like running, and I'm kind of tired now. I want to go home. And now I have to deal with these consequences because of these lows. And that's what's called a dopamine deficit. And you have a crazy amount of dopamine, and then you have no dopamine. That feeling of empty makes makes people insane. And it made me insane for the better part of a year. And it was an awful, awful year.
Yeah. Do you think though, like weighing those two things, was it still worth doing the thing?
1,000%.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do feel like it was a part of the process that I needed to learn and understand. As great as that was, or sorry, as difficult as that was, this was equally difficult. And that's what I wrote about in my book. And I finished writing the book and I was planning on finishing in Victoria. But then what happened was I went to bed that night and I lied in bed staring at the ceiling and thinking, like, because it took me a year to write. And I thought, okay, this story's not done yet. So I went downstairs and I grabbed a bottle of bourbon and that was the whole last chapter was just one big drunk write. And we didn't edit it at all. It was amazing. Like it was, even my editor was like, "Oh my God, that was the book." But it was just like this barf of thought. Um,
I appreciated how honest you were in the book, and
Thank
especially
you.
about your relationship, which I think sometimes is just like really hard to write about when like your partner is going to read it, right? So
Mhm.
nothing was, like it wasn't glossy, like it was really real, and I really appreciated that. And
Mhm.
even in the documentary, I think even more than the book, I realized the tension between you and your brother, like
Mhm.
a lot of like it was uncensored. Like I really appreciated that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I kind of wanted it to be uncensored because I thought that, like, back to what we were talking about before, there's a lot of people who write books that talk about all the glossy stuff, and they kind of want you to think that they're something. But I mean, hey, we're all something. We're all certainly something. But it doesn't really help other people that are going through something hard to think that this person doesn't struggle over here. Like the people that do, the people that succeed, um, we seem to think that they don't struggle. And but boy, everyone struggles. And everybody deals with family stuff, relationship stuff, self-doubt, self-worth issues, issues with paying attention to the wrong things. And so I wanted to write a book where it was something that number one, my kids would take as, hey, we proctors can do hard things, we can find excuses, or we could not. And then furthermore, my grandkids, which I'm not a grandfather, but down the road, because I think it's a story of being real and honest, but also, you know, like being real and honest, because that's how we all exist in our own skin, but then having success, um, by dreaming something so big that it scares you, and then putting the pieces together little bit by little bit to do it. So I wanted that story for anybody who was going to read it, that they could ultimately take the parts that they want, but just see that I feel pain like everybody else. And I see limitations like everybody else, but yet on the other hand, here's a success story about that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, like it seems like earlier in your like kind of running career, you were chasing a lot of world records, right? Like you had a whole bunch of world records that are now Canadian records, like neither here nor there.
Mhm.
And then it feels like since Trans Canada, you've sort of backed off that. Like you've competed in some stuff, but not as competitively as you would have before. And I just saw like you sign up for 2 backyard ultras this summer. Like, is that to like participate and have fun? Or is that again to sort of like really be top level competitive, like, because there was
Mhm.
something that was clearly driving you before, I would say. You don't just like end up with a whole bunch of world records accidentally, right? Like that doesn't
Mhm.
just happen.
Mhm.
So there was clearly something driving you there.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
back? Do you want that? Or do you just like, I just want to go run with my friends and that'll be
Mm.
fun?
I don't know yet. And
Mm.
it's a really confusing thing, right? Like desire is the most complex form of psychology. Like, why do we want what we want? What's driving somebody? Hey, what are we outrunning? Right? Like it's even in my book, I opened up with a Thorberg quote. We all should strive before we die to better understand what we're running to and from and why. And I was running towards something and I found it. And I convinced myself over the last 4 years that I found it and I don't need it anymore. Um, I found what comes first, the bottom of my well or the end of my rope. Um, and the so what's really interesting now is, oh, what's really interesting now is I don't know, but there's this growing burning within me, that I've been convinced by people in my life it's time to move on,
Mm.
and I've come to realize it was because of their wishes and desires and their fears and their how they would feel about things. And, these people have moved on in my life. And yet now, especially since they've moved on, now there's a feeling of like, hold on one second, was I being convinced of something? And really this burn for the sport and ultimately going deep into something is ultimately a big part of me. It always
Yeah.
has been. And yet, you know, here I thought that there was a bit of a finish line with Canada. And I'm coming to realize, oh no, it's not. I've been convinced as well too that I'm an aging athlete because I've been doing this ever since I was 20 years old, ultramarathons. And um, I don't believe that to be true. Um,
I
I'm
feel like I'm just
45.
getting started and we're like the same age. So
Yeah, yeah. And
like
I
I know
feel
that
like,
I don't have that many years of sort of my pounding my body like into
yeah,
the ground.
yeah.
So that's different, but there's always masters records. Like if you're
Uh,
competitive, there's always something to reach for. Like somebody just broke like then whatever, like 90-year-old ran like a marathon in 4:30 or something, which is
it's
like,
awesome. It is
like
so
you're
rad.
90. So like
Well,
I think
and
you
it's
can
just
keep being competitive if it
totally.
lights you up. Like obviously there's a point where I've got nothing to prove. Sure,
Mhm,
you're the fastest
mhm,
person to run across Canada. You have nothing to prove.
mhm.
But it's fun, right? Like I just think it's fun.
And or maybe I do have something left to prove. I don't
Sure.
know. I don't
Mm.
know. I honestly don't know. But what I do know is that, I'm kind of tired of giving somebody else the wheel here, you know? And I think it's about time that I start to make those decisions for myself of when I'm done. Like I get to decide,
Yeah.
right? Um, and yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know what's happening next. I I've got that backyard race in 2 weeks from now, and I'm
And
not.
that one is one where the winner gets to be on Team Canada, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's like a cool thing to come back to.
Oh, and I'm not fit right now. Like I'm really like when I compare what I was doing to what I'm doing now. Um, yeah, you go like I have no business running long into this. But then on the other hand, you know, like I'm still me.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say, like, I remember joking with my crew at the backyard ultra because you were just like chatting with everybody. And I
Mm.
was just like, the only thing that's going to be sore for Dave is his vocal
Oh,
cords.
funny. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually I want to circle back to the beginning when we were talking about the backyard ultra because we glossed over something that I don't think has gotten enough attention. What is
Uh,
this magical cowboy hat?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So years and years ago, I went out to a race. Well, I forget where it was, somewhere in the States. And it was a hot year, like a really hot year. And I remember the sun was really, really warm. And I ended up getting a cowboy hat out of a case of beer. And I was like, you know what? This is going to keep more sun off of me than my regular, you know, cap. And so I ended up wearing it, but I did well in the race. I think I won the race, and I thought it was kind of cool, like having more coverage like that. And so I just started wearing cowboy hats when I was racing and running. And so years later, when I did my first attempt across Canada, we you started because it was a big fundraiser for the Rare Disease Foundation, and so you started getting a lot more sponsors and more companies involved, and so we ended up partnering with Smith Built Cowboy Hats here in Calgary. And end up building the first ever running specific cowboy hat, and so that's that hat, and so it's really really cool. But the cool thing is, it's become a bit of a, like, you girls know, like there's got to be that outfit that you wear that you're like, dude, I own this room, or those shoes, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
A power suit, whatever. Like that's what they say about superheroes, right? They wear their suit or their cape, and they become something. You transform, right? And there's something to that hat,
Yeah,
that you put
totally.
that
Ultra
hat on,
status.
and that brim comes down, and you just like feel like a badass motherfucker who just doesn't quit, you know? And ultimately you're like in a showdown. It's like like one of those old dusty westerns where, they're having a duel and they're like staring down one another, and that's how I felt when I was running cross Canada with, the highway. You look down the highway every day and you're like, no, you're not going to win, you know? And I'm going to win. And it kind of makes you a bit of a badass. And so I don't know, I love it. You kind of transform into a bit of a different person, a very confident form of yourself, when I'm wearing that hat.
So you're going to put the
Beyonce
hat
talks
on
about
in
that.
2 weeks and you're going to go win the race. No big deal.
Well, I don't know. Like I'll run deep. There's
Yeah.
always things that go wrong. There's always things but yet, I got a bunch of friends who are running down there. I'm really looking forward to catching up with them. I can't imagine better time to chat than on a course.
Is Shep running?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love him. Yeah.
I love that guy. So yeah,
He's the
Shep is
best.
one of my crew members across Canada. But we're just texting this morning. We're going to be connecting tonight on the phone. Like, he's a dear, dear friend, and the guy's like a modern day hippie. Like, he's like a golden retriever. Like, he's just happy and loving all the time, and his attitude is contagious. And so,
The first time I did a backyard ultra, I think he helped me get to 24 hours. Like the
oh,
night hours were really hard. And he started rapping to me like Macklemore. And like it just like helped
of
so
course he did.
much. And then we would just go like I would just make weird sounds. I'd be like, like whatever. And he's like, that's so good. And then he'd make weird sound with me. And
Oh
like
my
it really
God.
helped. His energy is pretty infectious.
Yeah, but I think that's it. Like, you look at his, and I hope when Shep listens to this, he doesn't,
I
find
should
this
invite him on
offensive.
the
But
show. I hadn't like clicked
oh,
for
great.
to, but I should. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
so cool.
oh yeah, yeah. I'll talk to him tonight about it. He he has no business running the distances he does. Like, when you look at his running stride, he doesn't have a clean stride, and I don't think he would be offended when I say that. But um, it's his attitude. He
Oof.
leads with his attitude, and it's the coolest thing, and it just goes to show you that we can do hard things with a positive, can-do attitude, because that's just him. That's him. That's him. That's how he leads in life. And if he can do it, we can all do it too. Like, it's so rad.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
he's wonderful. Just thinking about him, just like, you know,
yeah,
makes you
warm feelings.
I think most people feel that way. Like it's nice to be remembered that way, right?
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, whatever, you do you, but I think like tapping back into that competitiveness would be a fun place to go back to and see what you find. Like your
Yeah.
baseline, a really fast dude, you know what I mean? Like you probably have a really high VO2 max. So even if you're not like going in your fittest, you have all that experience,
Hmm.
mental toughness, and baseline, you're just a fast dude, and
Mm.
you don't have to run very fast to do these things. So like
No,
for you,
you don't.
right?
Yeah, and I think one of the problems that, like, 2.5 years ago, I think something not a lot of people known, like, I've kind of disappeared ever since I ran across Canada 4 years ago, and um, I'm not on social media a lot anymore or ever. Um, but I ended up having back surgery 2.5 years ago. You kind of pay for the sins of your past.
Mm,
And I was a lot more broken. Like when we ran together, RC, I was
yeah.
way more broken than you would think. Um, and I ended up
All
having a
I
full.
remember is like you were super friendly,
Mm,
non-competitive until we finished 24 hours. And then I think you could sense that both of us were kind of done. And you were
mm,
like, I want to be done now. And then you just like started like the next couple of rounds. You ran so much faster and weren't
mm,
chatty. Just, I felt like it was like a mental thing. I was like, he's
mm.
going to show us like he can do this for days. So we might
Mm.
as well stop now. Like we
Oh,
got to a nice level. You did 24 hours. Good job. And now
yeah.
I'm going to show you how like fit I am. And you
Mm,
ran those last couple loops before you won so fast. And before that, you were always kind of running with us. You were never trying to
mm,
be too far ahead of us. But as soon as we passed 24 hours, you were like, I'm just going to show them like
mm.
I can do this for days.
Well,
That's what it felt like.
I think what happens with these races is that the race doesn't really start. Like you have to kind of pump the brakes um, until 24 hours, and then it starts, because at that point your legs are heavy, and that sun's coming up, and you're like, okay, 24 to 48 hours. And then 48 to 72, and then 72 to 96, and so it's like the race doesn't really get started until you decide, right? So that first 24 hours is you just get through it. And it's as well too, that's the hardest part, because once you're running on tired legs and you can accept it, it doesn't feel any worse or any better than the last one. Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, it's such an interesting thing, right? It's such a game of acceptance, right?
yeah,
Such a game of acceptance. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what's next. I do know that I don't want to give up on myself like I gave up on myself the last 4 years.
got it.
You know,
And back,
I gave
but your back is good now? Like it feels like stable, like
no.
you go for it?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, but there's a lot of damage that took place. Like I still can't do a single leg calf raise, so I can't push off my right side. But you can work around that.
Mhm.
The workaround effect with the body is pretty miraculous, and I I used to be like a 16-minute 5K runner.
Yeah.
I'm now an 18-minute 5K runner, so I can still run and I can still use my glutes, use my big toe, because I can't use my calf. Like it's really skinny on the right side. So you could still run fast enough, but with the backyard, you're running so slow anyway. You really
Yeah.
don't need your calf. You could just load other tissue.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, we're not sponsored, but I just got some running shorts called Stoco, and I haven't tried them yet. They literally just came in the mail today, but they have these dials in the lower back, and you can tighten them for like
Oh,
extra hip
cool.
support. So maybe check that out. They're a little
Yeah,
pricey, but like I'm like, I need some lower back support, so I'm gonna try it. So I don't know.
absolutely. You've got some low back problems too?
Yeah, but since my early 20s, like I was in a car accident and it's just it just is. So like on long runs I definitely like suffer, but
Yeah,
it is what it is. Like I love running too much to like not find a way to like make it happen.
totally, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
every run is a workaround. And anybody who, follows people online and they say, "Oh, well, it's easy for them." We're all just giving our highlight packages, and that's bullshit. Like it's every run is a hard run.
Yeah.
And if you can accept that, it's, yeah, you're so much better off knowing very well that every day there's inconsistency, there's tremendous amount of hard work, and there's pain, and you're going to have to deal with that. And the moment you can't, accept any of that is a moment that you're depressed. So it's
I
just
think
the way it is.
that's like a big reason why people don't start. And I don't know. Brooke and I have this ongoing thing where like she's producing a running podcast. So I think she wants to be a runner. I don't know.
Mhm.
um, but I think there's this expectation that it should be easy. So people don't start because it's hard, but it's like it's supposed to be hard. That's the point. I don't know.
The hard is the point.
Yeah.
Anybody who leans towards something easy is like they lean towards sitting watching Netflix all night. And don't get me wrong, I love that crap too.
Me too.
There's nothing better in the world than um, you go for a hard workout and you're like, so totally deserve this.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to rest hard here right now.
Yeah.
But it's what the hard is what makes it great.
Mm,
It should never be easy, and the effort is the reward. That's the big thing is we seem to think there should be a reward at the end. No, no, no. The reward is the effort that you just put in.
yeah.
And if you can get to that place, I think, then like you lean into it and go like every time that you're running and you hit a hill and you're like, oh dear Lord, um, good, good. Like this is what this should be. This is my cellular system. This is my mitochondria adapting and becoming more efficient and good, good. And it's going to make the next 23 hours, this hour run is going to make the next 23
Mm,
hours of my day really, really awesome.
yeah.
But this first hour is going to be hard.
Yeah. I agree. Any advice for Brooke on her running journey? She's done 2 5Ks so far.
It's so awesome, Brooke. I love that. Um,
Or anybody else, like
yeah,
somebody who's thinking about like wanting to start running, like how do you get from a 5K to a half marathon? You know?
yeah. Be as present as you can be, Brooke, like just be here now and be exceptional in this moment. Um, Lower your standards of what you think that this should be, because what it is exactly perfect right now. Um, and consistency. Just be as consistent as you can. Like, wake up every day and decide. Like, one of my dear friends, Wayne Goddard, he's crazy, incredible. When I started running ultra marathons 20, 25 years ago, he was winning races, all the races. And he's still winning races. He's turning 70 this year.
Oh,
And I love I love the way he looks at things because he doesn't say, "Oh, I want to run 100 miles in this certain time. I want to run this marathon in this certain time." He doesn't have these big outlandish goals. He has these goals that are really simple of like, I want to sweat every day. So he just sweats every day. And when you do that consistently, I want to lift heavy things every day. And when you do little things like that, when you have like not a specific goal, but like a broad goal, then over time, 365 days of sweating every day, you're pretty fit. And that's what Wayne does. And he's turning 70 this year and he can still he's the Canadian 24-hour team. They picked the top 6 24-hour runners and he's one of them. Like there is no age categories. He's beating all the 25-year-olds and he's turning 70. He's a grandfather. That's so rad. So yeah, just be here, be present in this moment. Um, and consistency.
yeah.
And know that
Mm.
every run that you go on, Brooke, is the ultimate form of self-love. This is you giving yourself a big old hug. And you're worth it.
When you said you did it in 18 minutes without calf muscles, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like 47 minutes, I think, my first
That,
5K.
that's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
I've gotten so much out of what you've been sharing, and like my dad was a big runner. He's always used to try and get me into it because it got him through trauma and addiction and so many things in his life.
Mm,
And he would just like go for runs, and then he got Parkinson's and had to stop. But
Right.
yeah, it's something that's always kind of called to me, but I've been resisting, and I had a good rhythm going, and then my grandma passed away and I just put like this wall up. I got out of my routine and it was just like so hard to get back into for some reason. It just
Mhm.
feels like there's this brick wall in front of me from choosing discomfort when mentally and emotionally I'm already uncomfortable, you know? Like all I
Mm.
want is the reality TV shows and like my comfort gluten-free pizza, but
Yeah, absolutely.
Selfishly ask a question. Just because I can't even believe I'm publicly talking about this. This is so weird. But I can't like drop this fantasy of running across Canada. And at this point,
Mhm.
it's like fantasy. Like I get it. But like, I'm 6 years into running. I can run some ultras. I can like whatever. But what's like the next thing to do if like 5 years down the line, Trans Canada is on the list? I know that's a crazy thing to say.
Multi-day.
Multi-day. Yeah.
Yeah, multi-day running. The concept of a longer time period to be out there running. Number one, you understand, you learn patience. Um, and it's a different mindset. When you show up at a race start and everybody else is amped up and people are drinking Red Bull and like it's like that's different. But when you wake up like I did every day and you go out and you start it every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and you get out on a cold open road and it's 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 a very different feel. And the first 10,000 steps of every day feel like shit. And that's what this is. And there's no one around. There's it's you in the middle of a big old province of many, many provinces. And it lacks fanfare. And it's just you and those tired old legs. And so the more that you can kind of get used to that, and that's what I like about multi-day, like take a 6 day race, like 6 days in the dome or across the years down in Arizona. Um, it's a 1 mile looped course, so it's boring,
Yeah.
but yet it's about going out and being consistently battered every day, but doing it and finishing what you start, right? And so, yeah, the 6 days is tough. You do get into a groove after about 10 days, but that's the beautiful thing about. That's why I tell people that or like Navy SEALs and stuff like that, is that, Hell Week isn't long enough. You haven't fallen into a groove yet. And so you will get into a groove, but I think 6 day racing is ultimately the very best way of preparing one's mind for what's about to take place here because it's gritty, it's ugly. You think that you're running at a good pace and you look down at your watch, you're like, oh no, that's what this is. So there's an element of acceptance there
Yeah.
and a lot of letting go of concepts of what you think this should be. And so, but it's a journey. It's a beautiful, beautiful journey. And I think that transcons are the ultramarathon of ultramarathons because multi-week, multi-month. It's like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like I keep trying to imagine, but I can't imagine.
Yeah, and it's the ocean's so far away, And how do you not get caught up in that? Like, how do you? Um, I've done so many races before where I messed up, where I think, okay, I've got another 60 hours to run. How do I feel about that? And then you drop out right away simply because nobody feels good about that. And you
Yeah.
have to learn that you can't ask that question because you're here. Like I'm talking to a woman here on the weekend and she's looking to run across Canada right now. And that's part of our conversation that we're going to have is simply that
Oh,
is
good.
it's the concept of, you know, all you're doing is you're out there doing your thing.
Is she going for a speed record?
I don't know yet. I don't know
Okay.
yet. She's strong.
Because then I'd be like, then
She's
I'm good. I just feel like somebody needs to break that record and it doesn't
yeah,
have to be me. I'd be so
yeah.
happy if somebody else
Oh,
did.
she's a really strong runner. Yeah, she's a super, and she's got a great attitude about it.
Right.
And so I'm so rooting for her. But but yeah, it's the idea that in this life that we're so busy with everything, and then now you get like with Canada back in 2022 for me is every day I got up and I just ran for myself. And I didn't have anything. I didn't have bills to pay. I didn't have phone calls to make. I just went for a jog on the highway heading west. And that was it. It was pretty free.
I love that.
Mm.
That was actually the point you just made was the one that was sticking in my head was like the thought that everything you want in life is on the other side of comfort and convenience. But the only time you have to be uncomfortable is like right now in this moment. And that's all you need to think about. Like it's not this like, oh, this is going to be the rest of my life. It's like, what can I do right now? And doing those things for yourself, like going for the 5K run for me, which was absolutely felt like I just completed the Olympics. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty
Absolutely.
incredible for me. But
Absolutely.
like choosing those things today are the thing. Like it's not the goal at the end. And I love how you talked about that, about how after your race, it was just like, okay, this thing's over. And that crash that you had. I experienced that after I completed so many huge goals I never thought were possible in my life. And one of them, like I was losing 80 pounds. And I'm like, once I get skinny, I'm going to feel amazing and I'm going to love myself and I'm going to have confidence and I'm going to show up. And what happened was I just found new reasons to hate my body and new things I was insecure about, And so like getting to that goal was really fun. Once I got there, it just didn't have any payoff. And like today, thinking about what can I do today to make myself feel healthy, feel fit, feel, serene, peaceful. Like what can I do for myself today? Those goals are instant. Like if I'm putting that effort in this moment, I'm getting that reward in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't that rad? Like you think the reward is the result, right? Is the, finishing the 5K, but it was the 5,000 steps that you took along the 5K. Like it's the journey. And that's the reward, the effort and journey along the way. At least for me, like I don't really remember too much of the finish line of running across the country, but I do remember every single turn in the highway, every single turn. And I remember the stops in which guys like Shep were there and he's all rapping to me and you're like, this is awesome. It's the lows, it's the highs. Sometimes it's even the rain. In the moment you want it to stop because you're like, I am so wet and cold. But you look back at it now, those were the best days out there. So, we fear those hard, ugly pushes. But later on, those are the things, those are the highs in life. And I think that we forget that because we get so afraid that we don't even take them on. But we're now not living and we're letting fear drive instead of curiosity. And so be curious, Brooke, next time you get out for your run, be curious of where you're going to go. So, because it's a whole big story, every run. There's a story that's being played out in your head. You might as well write a book at the end of every run. And it's such a cool opportunity, I think. Be
Well,
curious.
I think that's a beautiful place to wrap it up. And speaking of books, people should get Untethered. It's beautiful. And you can get Chasing the Yellow Line on Vimeo. That's why I watched it. It's great. And I wish you like the most fun at the next backyard. And I hope that you're curious to see how far you can push it. I'm going to be tracking it, so no pressure.
Oh, see, that's
Have
awesome.
fun out there. Like
I so appreciate it.
just like you must be inherently so driven and competitive. Like it's so obvious. And so I just like hope you can tap into that and enjoy that feeling, whatever position that gets you in, but just to like tap into it and feel it. I really hope you get that. And thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
RC.
joining us.
I so appreciate it. I'm gonna try my best out there. That's all like I can do.
Obviously, yeah. One loop at a time.
One loop at a time.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you get value out of it, please share it with a friend. It helps us so much. Comment, leave us a review, subscribe. You know all the things to do. We really appreciate you.